The Bible literally tells us that we should be careful what we say and do to others because sometimes angels will appear as humans, sometimes needing a hand. They need help, maybe they need food, shelter, clothing, or in the case in which I'm getting ready to tell you, a ride, shelter from cold weather. The reason I know this story is 110% true and not a hoax at all. It's because it happened to a very good friend of mine, a retired police officer now. This happened to him well over 20 years ago when he was early in his law enforcement career, and he was stationed in the southern part of Kentucky, kind of south central part of the state. It was getting almost wintertime. The temperature was dropping, the weather was getting bad, and it was the time of year that people who didn't have a home, like homeless people, were in need. His shift began like every other shift that he had ever worked. Except the only difference this time was he did have someone riding with him, another officer. Usually that doesn't happen. These guys were out on patrol. It wasn't too late in the evening, it was after dark. They were patrolling down a very busy highway. They got to a point where there was a huge bridge. This thing was a few hundred feet long, and he had been over it many times. But as he got to the end, which takes a pretty good while from one end to the other, he seen what looked like a homeless person walking the direction he had just came. They thought maybe that they should go check on this guy, see if he needed help. It was cold outside, the weather was going to get nasty, and they didn't really feel right just leaving this gentleman on the roadway. Anything can happen. So he turned around pretty quickly and got back to the bridge about where he had seen this guy, and he was nowhere around. Like he had completely vanished, and there wasn't anywhere to go once you got on this thing other than over the side. So their minds began going there, thinking, oh my goodness, this guy has either got hit or jumped over the bridge. But they went on down to turn around, and this guy had made it all the way to the end of the bridge, the opposite side of the bridge, which they immediately thought was very odd and strange, because there was no way this guy, who was an older looking guy, he didn't look like an athlete, and they said it was nearly impossible for someone to have covered that much distance in that quick amount of time. But their minds are still not really going down that road yet. They pull up to this gentleman and ask him if he's okay, if he needs any help, and he asks if they would give him a ride a few miles down the road to a local truck stop. He would go in there and get something to eat and warm up, and they happily agreed to do so. So this guy gets in the car, they take off down the road toward this truck stop. Was again just a few miles. This gentleman seemed very polite, friendly. They were thinking he was a homeless guy just trying to get somewhere. They didn't recognize this gentleman, and they hadn't been on the road very long when this guy started talking about God. He started quoting scripture. He started praising Jesus in the back seat of this cruiser, of this cop car. My friend said that it was almost like you were sitting in church. Chills were running up and down their body. This guy was, of course, he was thanking them for being kind and giving him a ride, especially considering the weather. And pretty much the whole way until they reached this truck stop, which he said probably was maybe 8 or 10 minutes down the road, this guy just sat in the back of their cruiser and had a church service. I'll be honest with you, that in itself isn't that uncommon. They wasn't sold just yet of what was about to happen, because in law enforcement you will deal with people who often do this. Very similar things. They will quote scripture and preach almost like you're in a church service, but they still, their minds wasn't going toward anything out of the ordinary, other than this guy was just a little strange. They pull into the truck stop, and it's a busy place. You know how it is, those places. And they are just in the middle of the parking lot, and they ask him if they could give him any money if he needed help, anything further. And they both had a few dollars cash on them. They give him probably $5, $10 so he could get some food. If you don't know anything about cruisers, police cars, you can't open the back door from the inside. You have to either someone has to let you out, or you can roll down the window at what they done, and he reached out and opened the handle from the outside. And so he opened the door, he stepped out, he walked up to the passenger side of the car where my friend's co-worker was sitting. They had rolled the window down so they could talk to him one last time. And again, he just kind of leaned down and put his face in the window, and he was thanking them for their kindness. And then he went off into a full-blown church service once more in the parking lot, praising God, praising Jesus. He turned around with his back to them. He spread out his arms like he was flying. And then the most amazing thing happened. My friend, who I've known well over 20 years, swore with his hand on the Bible that this guy, once he spread his arms out, he raised his head back, and he said he just glided through the parking lot. He said it's almost like his feet wasn't even touching the ground, or like he had wheels on the bottom of his feet. He just glided across the parking lot with his arms stretched and his head leaned back, praising God and Jesus. And I have no doubt, and my friend didn't either, this was an angel. Hebrews 13:2 tells us that we will often meet angels in some situations. They look like people, someone needing help, and God used these things as a little test. Are we going to be helpful? Are we going to lend a hand with someone in need? And I believe wholeheartedly this was an angel. I talk about a lot of dark things on this channel, a lot of darkness. I talk about evil things. I talk about demons and the dangers. That's because I want to inform people. But I also would like to shed light on the good things. God is real. Jesus is real. Heaven is real. And angels are real. I believe we all have had moments when we have encountered angels, not knowing who we were talking to. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please turn on all notifications so you'll know when I post another video. Like and subscribe. You can also follow me over on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook as The Supernatural Sleuth, or you can email me at thesupernaturalsleuth@gmail.com if you have any kind of story, picture, or video you would like to share. Thank you so much. I hope you have a blessed evening. I will see you soon.